Good morning, thinker. How are you today? I'm back to work today. 2 days off, 4-day weekend. It's going to be difficult. So I'm going to leave the opener on for a little bit longer right now. I think the photo... Well, anyway, hopefully you're doing well this morning, thinker. I hope your morning's treating you well. I think the photo of the painting is taken a little bit lighter than it should be. As you can see, the palm frond in the bottom right and the tiger and everything is a bit lighter than the reference. Not sure if I like it or dislike it, so we'll see. I will have to, balance out the values on the photo the next time. See if I can get it as close as possible to what it really is when I see it with my eyes in person. But there's the tiger in all its glory. Still need to do some hairs on the head, on the left and right side of the head. Make it a little bit more poofy, kind of like the digital version. Yeah, background today. And yeah, just a few more things on the tiger, but for that first layer on the tiger's done. So, hey, good morning. Today is today's the 5th. Awesome. So good seeing you guys showing up to the stream or the video afterwards. And I'd just like to kind of pop in here to show, who I am. That you care, I guess. I kind of like the transitions, keep it interesting in some way. I'm excited because I hope to get this moving along pretty quickly. And the first thing we're going to do is everything up here is very dry, very dull. And you can see, actually, we did some painting a little bit like, I don't know, maybe a week ago in this kind of area around kind of like a larger halo around the head of the tiger. So you can see that that's kind of closer to the value range because it had some medium in it. But you can see how dull it is up here. So I'm going to show you what it really looks like after we do some oiling out. Refined linseed oil. I got a bit of a bigger brush today and I just dipped it in there. And we're going to try and put it all over the place. I'm going to focus on the lighter area in the background. So around the tiger head, not into the tree yet. Maybe we'll see if we can get to that today. Maybe this top corner of the tree. Let's get this spread around really thin. You have to take this refined linseed oil thinner than you think onto the canvas because it will run down the canvas even when it's super thin. It just tends to collect. So what'll happen is you'll get it super thin right now, and then within an hour or so of your painting session, you may see drips. So it's always kind of good to kind of come back to it after you've been painting a bit and see where it's at. Hopefully you can hear what I'm saying because I'm scrubbing the canvas right next to the mic. I'm going to go into the ear of the tiger just a little bit. That's going to be kind of important. I want to get some of those darks pulled out. Need a little bit more medium here for the left and the right side. A little bit more of that refined linseed oil. What I like to do sometimes is I'll come over here like directly, like my head's like right against the canvas right here. Maybe you can see my nose here. Nope. And be on the opposite side of the light. That way you can see the glare, and you'll be able to see wherever there's not glare is where you didn't put the oil. And you gotta make sure you cover up all those little spots. Fully oil it out, and you get a better understanding of how thick it is in places. So wherever your light is, to see the glare, you want to be as close to the canvas and opposite of the glare of the light. Doing a big area today. Going to try to do a big area today. Okay, looking pretty good. I can put my refined linseed oil away. Oh, by the way, a quick tip on these any container like this, the bigger you get, the more you use, the more air that's kind of trapped inside the container. So you can see there's just a little bit of air left in here. But as you get down to the bottom, this oil will dry pretty fast because you trap all this air in there, and then air will continue to work to dry the oil. The same kind of happens on tubes. The further you get down into a tube of paint, the thicker it gets, it seems. And I got a rogue paint sliding down my palette that I need to get back up there. Yeah, that happens sometimes with vertical palette. Sometimes your oil paints, when you open them up, there'll be a lot of linseed oil at the very top, and it'll be a lot thinner at the beginning, and it'll run easier. Wow, that looks so different now. After doing the oiling out on that, it looks so much better, so bright and vibrant, especially the ears. I mean, it's fantastic looking up there. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on my reference just for that background area. And the one thing that I want to make certain that I do is that the darkest value, which you see in the ears and in the eyes and in some of the stripes, you know, down here in the tiger's head, all those darkest values should be much darker than anything in this background. The only thing that would get close to it is some of the tree would get, you know, kind of close to it, but not all the way. And this little branch up here, these couple little branches. But even that should be far away, okay? We want to really heighten the atmospheric perspective between where the tiger is and where the jungle is in the background. So make sure that the values are not near as dark, honestly. Yeah, we want to make sure that happens. Where to start? I'm going to need one other brush. Another number 2. Oh, this is perfect. This is a splayed out number 2. And we're going to start with a bluish green. When we were working on this background here, we were adjusting. As you can see, it's pretty warm here. We were adjusting the background so it was a more of a tealish color, actually. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with a bluish teal green. I am going to start with ultramarine blue, though. And I'm going to use my palette knife to mix this up. some sap green, and then I'm going to throw in a little bit of Hansa yellow. This is going to be a very intense green. And one thing I added to my palette this morning was Williamsburg neutral gray number 2. Yeah, number 2 right here, which is like a gray color. I know that I'm going to be needing a lot of gray to help me kind of neutralize a lot of this paint, and I want to do it a bit faster than normal. So I'm going to use that gray to help me with that. Gonna add our medium as well. And the reason why I'm using my palette knife is because I want to mix up a larger batch of this color for this morning. This is a very dark bluish green. I'm going to take some white. I'm not going to put it in my big pile. I'm going to mix it up over here. And I'm going to grab some of this green and then throw it into there. Just kind of on the side to get a bit of a read on that value, or at least the hue, the saturation for what's in there. Okay. That's really, really cool. A cool color, not awesome, but closer to a blue, like a bluish, very neutral type green. And that's what we're going to start with. Lots of paint to begin our mixtures. Remembering that, Thinker, you say, remembering that the value of the top of the tiger's head needs to decrease a good bit. Yeah, in certain points, yeah, definitely. Let's see, the value of the background right now compared to the tiger's head. It could come down a bit. Honestly, I feel like it could come down a bit, especially in these lighter areas. I've gotten too light up there. I want to really push that background behind the tiger. It's going to be blurry. It's not going to reach this darkest dark. It's going to go towards a gray, desaturated, and we're going to bring the value down. So all those things will work to push it back. So let's see. Let me add some more medium to this. I need to get more medium out of my palette right away. I'm going to see what this looks like. Yeah, it's a very gray color. And as I look at the reference, which hopefully you're seeing the reference as well, you can see that it's a bit darker. Of course, that's, you know, are the lighting situations the same? Not sure. Okay. It could be a bit different. So that, you know, that's where our own judgment kind of comes in within this. We have to always lean upon our own judgment on this. Does it need to be lighter, darker, warmer, or cooler? Yeah, it's different than the reference, but I like it this way for, you know, important reasons that you come up with. So right now you know, you get into the stage where you're working in a different part of the painting. You kind of move around the painting and you're like, you know, I don't remember what I was doing last time I was here. Not sure what I need to do right now. Just throw down some paint. Okay? Especially with the glazing stage, it's easy to pull it off. Yeah, a color mixing video would be great. I know, I got some ideas. I have so many stupid ideas. Well, so many wonderful ideas. I don't know why I'm denigrating myself this morning so much, but I have so many wonderful ideas. And the setup that I have now will allow me to achieve those ideas a lot faster. I just need to make the time for them. That's the biggest thing, making the time. You know, as long as I get my number one in for the day, as far as art's concerned, which is always, you know, time doing my artwork. That's the most important thing for me. Let's see, how dark is that? See, that's a bit too dark. So get those number ones in, and then see where I can add in other things. I'm really going to lean heavily on the reference this morning as far as, you know, where the lighter patches of value back there and darker patches of value exist. And really try and put them in quickly. Hello, Finish. Good morning. Hopefully you're having a wonderful morning. Oh, and yes, I am going over the edges of the tiger's head. Just a tiny bit. Less than I did last time. But that's always important. You always want to how am I going to say this? You have a foreground and a background. You always want to kind of blend those in together just a little bit to make sure that you do something on the foreground elements last. Going all the way just up to the edge of a foreground item is not enough. You'll break your depth perception for those items, the foreground elements, if you do that. It's all about the edges. I mean, you could sit there and manipulate the edges for a little bit longer. It's just easier to paint the foreground elements over. Wake up feeling super lazy, but I went and painted a pair of apples anyways. Fantastic. Great job for, you know, pushing that envelope, building up that willpower. Fantastic. Great job. And remember that. Mark it down. That way the next day, when you wake up and you don't feel like it, you can go, well, you know what? I did those apples the other day. I could do something like that again. It's such wonderful fuel for, you know, motivation in your future. I'm thinking about the values back here, and I'm also making sure that any really warm areas, I'm really doing a semi-glaze over them to make sure that they get cooled off as much as possible. Like this tree here is really warm. I want to cool it off, push it back. create more separation between the tiger and the background as much as I can. I'm kind of, yeah, not kind of. I am pushing myself this morning to try and be as impressionistic as possible. You know, really not thinking about the details in here. Getting some shapes down so they at least look like shapes that would be in the background of a jungle. You know, you gotta have, you know, something of that shape language back there. I'm gonna keep all the edges really soft. They may start out hard edges, but then I'm gonna soften them back if I need to. You know, the other way to do something like this, where you have something in the background that you want to soften all the edges on, so it's kind of, it does like a photograph where you have a focal point and the items are not in your focal point, so they get very blurry. The other way to do this is with an oil paint is just to paint the background exactly like it would be quickly while the paint is still wet, and then use a really like big fan brush or soft brush to soften everything out. You know, I was thinking about that last night, but I don't want to do that way, because one of the things I need to train myself on is this ability to paint a little bit faster. And that comes with recognizing the big shapes and understanding, you know, what detail is necessary, and only doing that. Finish says, I wanted to ask you, do you prep your canvas before painting? So far, I never bothered with that, but I'm wondering if it's worth taking the time to do that with my studies. I would definitely, I'm using these pads that have 10 canvas sheets. I think they come pre-primed. If they're perfectly white like a paper towel, they are pre-primed with like a white gesso. If they're a little bit off-white, then it's the bare canvas, and you never want to paint on bare canvas. Oil paint will eventually tear up the canvas. It will eat through it. The oil does. I'm not sure if it eats through it, but it's something where you don't want to do. You have to prime your canvas. You have to prime anything you paint on with oil. You could paint on with, like, if you go out and get like some Arches paper, some BFG paper or something like that for printmaking. If they still have the BFG out there, I remember using that a lot. You can prime that on both sides with gesso and paint on that as well. It's pretty archival. Most of my figure paintings that I've done, a lot of them, were painted on paper. Those are really nice for studies because you can stack them just like the canvas pads. The problem with both of those methods, though, is you have to, you know, if you make a painting that you really like, it's very difficult to mount it on something. You have to glue it to either the paper, you have to glue to a panel, and the same thing with the canvas. You would have to glue that to a panel as well. Yeah. But okay, let's talk about canvas preparation. And it comes down to preferences in a lot of ways. I like a very smooth canvas because since I started this painting, I've painted with these very soft monarch brushes, which are a synthetic sable-like brush. And those work with very smooth canvases. They work well with smooth canvases, but if you try and use them on a rough canvas, like an unprimed cotton, and they have different weights of cotton, by the way. Some of them are very flat and soft, and others are not. So if you like to use really soft brushes, you really want a soft canvas. If you like to paint thin and flat, you want a very soft canvas. If you like to chunk the paint on with a palette knife and kind of throw it around everywhere. See, it kind of gets back to your own preference. Like, you gotta know what you like to do. And if you don't, experiment, you know. If you like to throw the paint on, you know, any canvas almost would work way well for that. Just most of the time, using a very toothy canvas would work well. To get a thinner canvas, smoother canvas, you can buy some panels if you want. There's a lot of like ampersand panels out there that are very smooth, that are nice. That way you don't have to do any extra gessoing or anything like that. Or when you gesso, if you want to do it yourself, which is totally cool, you would put down a coat of gesso and then wait for it to dry. A thin coat of gesso, basically. Wait for it to dry, then sand. And do that at least twice. Sand in between each coat. And that will get it really smooth. And you want to use a 220 sandpaper to get it really smooth. And you want to do it in a place where you're not breathing the gesso dust that comes up. So outside, put a mask on. Don't breathe that stuff. It's not going to harm you right away, but, you know, if you become a prolific artist and you're sanding canvases every other day, at some point you'll go to the doctor and your doctor will say, yeah, you got all this junk in your lungs, and that's why you can't breathe so well. So might as well prepare for it. You know, don't breathe in that junk. It's like my dad, he does a bunch of woodworking. And so he wears a mask every time he cuts anything. Because the stuff that's in wood, especially nowadays, the way they have to treat the wood and do all kinds of stuff with it, or even just pine bark, if you're doing pine and sanding that out, it's not good at all for your lungs. So, yeah, just sand in between. My canvases are smooth, they're sanded in between like that, and I use a combination of white and black gesso. I mix them together so it makes a nice neutral gray, and then do that. The shadow dark value behind the right ear reflects the right ear. Is that intentional? You know, I was just going off of what I see on the, and I like how you put out your questions there. I was going off what I see on the reference where, yeah, this has this like dark area here, and it does kind of, you know, make another ear shape, doesn't it? So I need to be aware of that. Thank you. That's one thing I need to do, is be more diplomatic with my words in some places. In a lot of places, I've been told several times that I'm a bit harsh with at work. Really thinking about how I say things is important to people, especially the people we love, which sometimes we forget. I really want to cool off this whole area up here. And I added green to that, which is not doing it. I added sap green. It doesn't look, it's not cooling it off well at all. And that's too bright, so I'm going to gray it out. Yeah, those neutral grays are a really nice convenience color to really gray down some things. Maybe too light there. I'm making a very big mess back here right now. That's what it feels like to me. I'm making a big mess. That's a nice indication that I'm a little bit outside my comfort zone. It's easy for me to get into that mode. Or that idea of like, oh, I'm making a mess. I need to switch to a smaller brush and then get really detailed so I can fix it. But I'm going to try and stay away from that feeling. Or at least feel into it, not stay away from it, but and kind of stick with the plan. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Sticking with the plan here. And I think that stick that's hanging down, I'm going to do as a second pass. Or a third pass, really, because we have done a little bit of this background up here. And then there's a wonderful kind of palm frond hanging here, which... It's nice. It's kind of blurry up there with the digital version. Doesn't look weird in any way. You know, you can tell it's some kind of foliage up there. See if I can repeat that. And this brush is really splayed out. It's got this really kind of cool hairy texture to it. You could have used that on the tiger in a lot of places. I'm going to darken this up a lot over here. Okay. Couple more places I'm going to put down, and then I'm going to smooth a lot of this out. Because it is very textural right now. Too much texture. Oof, don't like that. Don't like that stripe. Good morning, Ashton. Hopefully you're having a wonderful day today. Getting ready for school? Okay. Yeah, let's knock down all those edges real quick. I'm going to be using a very soft, flat brush. Talked about this brush several times. Got it from Richard Schmid. I mean, not personally. It's the brushes he used to use. Royal Langnickel. And just very lightly going over and fuzzing out these things. And I'm going to do it in such a way that I'm thinking about possible twigs and sticks back there, different leaves and things. Maybe some edges I'll leave, other places like this big kind of chunky dark area, whatever that is. You know, maybe that's some kind of fuzzy bush back there with really small leaves, so it looks like it just fuzzes into nothing. And then maybe some of this blue here just turns into almost like a mist. Yeah, I'm ready to get started with my day. Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks for joining while you're getting started. So one thing that is very difficult, and I think I've kind of avoided this over... Well, I have avoided this a lot. And recognizing what you're avoiding, it can help you grow a lot as well. So I've avoided this kind of idea of, you know, how much can you get away with? Well, that's probably not the best way of putting it, but what is the minimum amount that you need in certain areas of the painting to still, you know, you have communicated your story, your narrative, the form, the value, everything that you want, you know, whatever you wanted to communicate, it's done. And then just leaving it there and not overworking. You know, where is that point at? And that's what I've kind of avoided a lot, is really figuring that out. And I think it's a comfort level in a lot of places. You know, we're talking about, you know, how much detail do you put in a painting? And really kind of pushing the envelope of maybe I can do, you know, even less detail and still communicate. That's what I'm going to be working on myself in probably the next few paintings. With the understanding that I'm not sure of this, you know, I don't know. And the best way to figure it out is to make some bad paintings, make some mistakes. And do it live on camera. You know, to heck with it, do it live on camera. I love the idea of not just being this perfect artist in front of people, but showing mistakes all the time and saying, yeah, I screwed that up. Look how bad this painting is. You know, what can we learn from it? You know, that's how, you know, I want everyone to learn from me, you know, to increase the alacrity, the speed at which you improve. Too often we just see nothing but the best art out there. And that's not telling me how to improve. I want to see all of Sargent's mistakes, right? I want to see all of Van Gogh's, well, you see a lot of bad Van Gogh paintings. I mean, he really put everything out there. I think there's even a lot of stuff that he got rid of. Yeah, but I want to see their bad stuff. That's how I can grow as an artist. So yeah, as I'm pushing myself and I'm making mistakes, I'll tell you. That looks terrible. I have this professor who does blurry paintings where it's somehow obvious the scene, but it's not detailed. So it's kind of like a Rothko landscape or something. It's really interesting because it's pretty much captures how it looks without my glasses on. Yeah, there you go. That's good. It sounds like really pretty work, you know? I love Rothko. I used to hate Rothko. I was like, what is this blurry crap? But then you see them in person, and it's like, oh my gosh. Wow. I didn't know you could get feeling from just soft color. Yeah. And I think that's the power of not doing everything for the viewer. You open up the painting for them to interject themselves in some way, for them to step in and, you know, use their own imagination. You know, as I look at what I just did, I'm going to stand back and I'm going to really push myself just to say, you know, maybe this is done. Maybe that background area, I'm done with it. And I think the best thing that we could do as artists with that is, you know, ask the questions, does it pull away from, does it reduce the importance of the focal point? Does it detract from the focal point? Does it enhance the focal point, you know? How could it enhance the focal point even more? Okay, I see three things that I want to do with this. The three things I want to do. First, I want to reduce the size of this, what do you call it, like stick in the background. I think it's too distracting. Let me get a smaller brush, actually. Sorry, I'm reaching over my palette camera. I keep getting the wrong brush. I'm gonna pull them all out of my brush bath. So that's the first thing. I want to reduce the size of that stick so that it's not as distracting. The other thing is I want to darken up this up here, and I'll probably, as you can see, there's a bit of, can you see that? Yeah. So there's a bit of light that kind of, there's no blocker up there, honestly. It just kind of allows the viewer to kind of go off the canvas. And I'm not sure if that's okay or not. I think I want to do something like that's on the digital version that kind of has some verticals that brings the viewer back. And then we have to put I love the stick that kind of comes in. I want to put that in. And there's actually a couple sticks up there that are nice. But let's reduce the size of this first. And I'm going to do that with a smaller brush by... There's some lighter background back there. And some not so lighter background back there as well. Really kind of cutting off the bottom half of this stick. So I need to change up my strokes a bit. So a good way to use texture to your advantage, if I want to separate the... So we have a stick that's going at this angle, okay? And I want to separate it from the background a bit better. Change the direction of your brush strokes. So let's do vertical brush strokes for the background. Kind of, you know, keep everything looking vertical. Go right through the whole stick, you know. Get some verticals in there. Maybe bring in some dark colors so that it goes right through it as well. Gives this idea of something else going on back there. Something more, something separate. And it'll create some more separation. Okay. I can reduce the value of this stick in some places as well. I can also make it less uniform. It's kind of like this perfect bar, you know, perfect rectangle. So let's reduce it down to, you know, a more of a jumble of shapes. Something more random like nature would be. And this is, you know, all kind of coming out of my head here. Not really looking at a real jungle, only looking at the reference, which some of that came out of my head. Some of it came from the reference. But having a nice kind of amalgamation of all of them together. Don't get too detailed, Chris. Stay away from the detail here. Lots of squinting going on and lots of leaning way back in my chair for this. So I can discern what it actually looks like. Get rid of all the brush strokes that I'm seeing and reduce it down into kind of a blurry shape within my eyes, and that will always help me see the bigger picture. You know, I never knew what really squinting meant until Richard Schmidt in his book. I think he was the one that, I'm pretty sure, yeah, he described it. And I've described it before, but I like repeating myself on here. Never know who's joining or what video they're joining with. So repetition, I think, is good. But basically, when you squint your eyes, you bring your eyelashes together. And your eyelashes meet right in front of your pupil, kind of like teeth, you know, and they blur out what's beyond them. And they also darken up the, you know, what you see just a little bit. They tend to get rid of color, or it tends to get rid of color when you do that, and you can focus a bit more on value. So if you do it right now, you can kind of see, you know, just, you know, whatever you're looking at. Maybe it's out a window or in your room that you're in, or even while you're driving. I mean, I think you can do it while you're driving. Just be careful, you know, as long as you can see well already. But you can reduce what you're seeing in front of you. Don't close your eyes while you're driving. Just squint them down just a bit. You'll see the value go down, and you'll see everything kind of get a little bit soft and blurry. And you'll be able to discern the values a bit more. All the details stop getting in the way. Now, I'm going to bring that back just a little bit. It's so funny, I haven't oiled out this space here, and hopefully you can see that, but this stroke here is like super dark compared to what I haven't oiled out. But I know that if I put oil on this area, that those values would really be a lot closer. Another reason why that oiling out process is so important, so helpful. There's a really long string of moss hanging down right here. It's really nice. I think the combination of this brush and a little bit of my blending brush is going to bring that out well. And that's nice. Just need to get the shape a bit better. Get enough paint on there as well. I think if I ever become famous, with my artwork, they will all be able to tell which paintings are mine because every single one of them is going to have cat hair embedded in it. Embedded in the oil paint. Wait, is that an original Beaven? No, there's no cat hair in it. No, it's not original. He was notorious for owning cats. If it doesn't have cat hair in it, it's not my painting. It's someone else's forgery. Even a lot of the photos I've taken of my artwork, you look really closely at them and you're like, oh wow, is that cat hair? Yes, it's cat hair. Okay. Top left, the next thing I want to do is darken up the top left. And then some kind of vertical element in the background here. And it blocks off that little piece of light up there just a little bit. Step away from the detail, yeah. Sir, put your hands up. Step away from the detail. But I was just trying to paint a painting. No, no, sir, step away. But officer, no, get away. You're done, sir. You're done. It looks good. You're done. And I think that, you know, that's part of it, is you can always see something wrong with your own paintings. But 90% of the time, you ask someone else, especially non-artists, and you say, hey, can you see what's wrong with this painting? And they point out probably something completely different that you're like totally fine with, that maybe that you've never seen or whatever. And you're like, well, what about this big thing? And they say, oh, I didn't even notice that. It's kind of like being okay with seeing those things and saying, you know, that's fine. I'll improve further down the road. I'll get better with that. But that painting is done. That painting is where it's supposed to be. I'm gonna put a few more of these kind of sticks back here, and then I'm gonna fuzz it all out really quickly. I like the idea of, you know, you got kind of a darker stick in front of these lighter areas, and it all blends together. Like the light is, you know, when you have a silhouette of a figure and the light behind it, the edges of that silhouette will be soft in areas, and that's what's kind of happening. All right, let's fuzz it out. Don't get too detailed, Chris. I won't get to that stick today because I'm going to be finishing here in a minute. I need to stay on time today to get everything done, especially my workout. I really kind of haven't. I didn't do my workout yesterday, basically. We were going to go on a hike. Went up close to Mount Rainier. And the weather has been, you know, unseasonably cold and wet this April. And there's still snow in places. We couldn't get far. We had to turn around. Roads were still closed, all kinds of stuff. So we couldn't do our hike yesterday. I didn't do a workout at all. Okay, time to step back. See what we got. There we go, right at 1 hour into it today. Yeah, that's good. I'm uncomfortable with it. I want to go in and fix all kinds of little things, but it's doing everything it needs to do back there. I just need to put that stick in, the one that's closer into the foreground, that's at the top. So I'll probably do that tomorrow. Maybe, depending on how much of this is dry. I would like to wait for this to dry. Probably the first thing I'll do tomorrow is get the right side. Oh, you can't see that over there. Let me back up. Go. So probably the first thing I'll do tomorrow is see all of this area is still dry and I need to oil it out. So oil out this area, get a little bit into the palm frond. Probably go over the whole palm frond maybe because I have all these teeth that I need to look at. And kind of get down into these areas, which are going to be even less detailed than that. It's going to be dark, but I have to make sure that I don't reach the same value range as what's in the ear of the tiger. It's going to be lighter than the darkest dark in the tiger, and it has to be. It has to stay that way. If I get this as dark as the tiger, it's going to bring it forward. We need to push it back, and we're going to do that with value, soft textures. There are a bunch of sticks and things that kind of come down, and they do some things around in there, so maybe a couple layers back there. We'll see. But that'll be the next place I work on. Let's see how far down we can get on that tomorrow. Okay, 1 hour stream on the dot. Well, maybe a couple minutes over. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's still showing me, even though I can't see the screen. All right, thanks guys for joining me for today, April 5th, for an hour stream. We'll work on that background tomorrow. And if things keep going this way, this fast on the painting, I'm pretty sure that within, maybe next week, we could be finished with this painting. I'm excited about it because I have so many ideas of things that I want to start after this. Smaller paintings that we can get through, pretty quickly. Really take on some tutorial-like ideas of color and drawing and edges and different ways to start paintings, different ways to finish paintings. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So until then, I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.